Welcome to the Preventive Medicine Podcast. Help us change the paradigm of medicine from keep people alive to help people thrive, one episode at a time. And now, here's the show.
I think that the biggest thing is the fitness industry, and I say this in like one of my many slogans, is like it's better than what you've been sold, or you've only been sold one version of fitness. And people think like men or women, they each are sold their own individual version of that, but they think like that's it, that's all I get to choose. Like pick your player. There's only one option. You're either a cardio bunny or you're a Gymshark booty band girl. Like it's all you get to be, or you're a beefcake heavy weightlifter, or you're bodybuilding. Like that's all you get. That's all you get to be. You're either the gym bro that's all into building muscle, or you're like the super like smash a stack of pancakes, lift heavy dude. But those are like the only two versions that you're sold as like men and women in this industry, like the fitness industry specifically. Obviously there's other niches where like marathon runners are like their own breed of things, but like people don't realize that they can do all these other things and they can have fun with it and they can kind of make what they want out of it. And I'm seeing that more. And I love selling that to people and showing them that, because they're like, wait, I didn't know this was an option. I'm like, yeah, because no one ever told you that you're allowed to just do whatever you want and have fun with your fitness and your life and your body. Like we're all going to die eventually, right? So you might as well move your body. Like I say all the time, like resistance train a little bit, please. Like I beg people, I'm like, please resistance train at least a little bit. But beyond like that 2 days a week of at least full body, it's like the minimum that you should be doing. As long as you're overloading it, like the rest, you can literally hula hoop for 6 hours a week. I don't really care. Like do it, just move your body how you want.
Yeah, I think the part, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rogo.
I was just going to say, I think the part that's missing from a lot of fitness and preventive medicine type stuff is the individual. Like everyone's trying to sell them something, and then that person forgets that they have their own unique desires, their own unique things that they prefer, that they like doing, things that fit better with their lifestyle. And they kind of morph their life into something that someone has sold them. Whereas they forget that they have their own unique interest. I can go run. Oh, don't like running. I'm going to go lift. Oh, don't like lifting. I'm just going to go do something else right here. Like I'm going to go do obstacle course races, which might be like a combination of running and maybe a little bit lifting somewhere in there. So the most important thing there is kind of determining what you find important to yourself and then building it for yourself. Because like I said earlier in this podcast, it isn't about just becoming healthy. It's being like healthy as a baseline so that you can do what you love, which you can incorporate in the terms of exercise as well.
I think fitness, I don't think people realize, because I think they only use fitness, like I said earlier, is like a way to change their body because that's all they think that they can do. But they don't realize that like fitness gives you freedom. Like people are like the reason I can do, and like the reason me and Jason can just start running ultra marathons out of thin air is because we're just fit people. We spend our whole lives training and exercising and staying fit and healthy and strong and resilient. And so when we want to say, screw it, let's go do this thing. Now, I mean, not everyone can do that, but like I think a lot of people don't realize that if you build that resiliency, you can just go have fun and you can just go rock climbing with your friends one weekend and enjoy it. Or you can go on that big hiking trip that you didn't really know that you could hike that much in a day, but you just have this fit resiliency, and then you can experience life more by not looking at it as only that one way of looking at fitness. But like, it's not only a way to buy more health and longevity for yourself across your lifespan, but you can buy a lot of experience by being physically more capable as a person.
For sure. And to kind of piggyback on what you said, it's like one of those things, like we're talking about the dose response curve of exercise. It doesn't take that much to really give someone a lot of benefit, right? Like 2 days of resistance training, I forgot what the specific guidelines were. I think it's like 75 minutes of moderate to intense cardiovascular and 2 resistance training sessions a week, or 150 minutes of low intensity plus 2 resistance. Like that could be 150 minutes of taking your grandkids for a walk or walking your dog, or resistance training could be like, it could be leg press, or it could be back squats, or it could be bench press. You know, it's like one of those things that like they don't need, like Raghav said earlier, they don't need to go and do a 7-day bodybuilding split or start, training for the next local powerlifting meet, or ride their Peloton for 6 hours straight. You know what I mean? It's like one of those
like
things.
You did a couple of 2 days ago.
But I think it's good that the extreme, those of us that are extreme in this field are the ones that are like leading it. Like I talk about that all the time, and I'm like, you don't have to do what I do, but like, well, aren't you glad that I'm the one doing it? Because like, that's like, then we can dose you down from where we're at this extreme end. Like we can dose you down from that.
Yeah. Right. And I think it's important that the people doing the extreme things sometimes are very clear, like, hey, this is all personal for me. This is not something you need to be doing to maintain your health or to have longevity. And like we were talking about earlier, like for most people, health is being able to go to Disney World and not falling down and breaking a hip, or like being able to travel still, being able to,
being able to hang out with grandchildren and run around with them when you're 70 or 80 years old.
Yeah. Like most people do not care about having a six pack or or whatever, but that's what gets sold to them is, well, you're not fit unless, you look this way, or you can bench press your body weight or whatever. That's just not the case.
No.
Mm-hmm. Alyssa, you mentioned earlier a lot about your work that you do with different women. And I was reading on your website that a lot of what you do is kind of tailored more towards females.
Yeah.
So as a follow-up question to that, is there kind of a bigger obstacle or something unique that women would face to reaching preventive lifestyle versus me or Jason or any other man would?
So I think with women, like they're obviously like, I kind of tend to lean into that like women are not small men thing, where physiologically we have a lot of similarities, but there are some differences when it comes to like prevalence in certain disease states. And so women are prevented from a lot of that stuff until they reach menopause because of the estrogen available in our bodies. Like we tend to not have the onset of like cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, things like that until that postmenopausal state. But then everything just becomes this big metabolic like shitstorm, right? Because everything just goes haywire. But a lot of what prevents that or treats that is like what we want women to be doing earlier on in life. And so if we can get women to resistance train and build strong, resilient, muscular bodies while they're younger, then their bone density and muscle metabolic health isn't as quite at risk when, all their hormones plummet. So there's that big difference that when I work with women, I push resistance training so much with women just because even if they want to run marathons, one, it makes you more resilient and less injury prone as a runner. But two, I'm like, I know that these are big goals that you have, but eventually someday you're going to stop running marathons and you're going to want your bones and your muscles and like all those things to still be strong. So I push that a lot with women, especially if they grow up. So this is where the bigger obstacle is just the messages on exercise prescription that is sold to women, especially since they're younger. So I started resistance training when I was 16 and that's unheard of, right? Like most girls aren't in the grungy basement gym of their high school lifting at 15, 16 years old, right?
They're not told they need to lift the pink dumbbells for 20,000 reps.
Not even hop on the treadmill.
And so they miss a lot of that like really good quality time in their life in their late teens through their 20s to like build muscle and enhance their bone density. But getting them to understand that when they hit their 30s and 40s and 50s, it's not too late. And then for me, the hardest thing, obviously men and women each receive their own very different messages that are not the best. But what I try to work with women is just how they're told that they need to use fitness and their relationship with fitness, because a lot of them for years use it as a way to starve themselves, shrink themselves. They abuse exercise. They use it as only a means to an end of shrinking their body, and getting them to buy into being well fed and training with intention and like recognizing that they can train like men, I guess, even though they're women, so they can lift heavy and they can train well and they can fuel themselves well. And like getting them to shift that mindset is super duper hard. And so like I genuinely care about those physiological differences with them, but getting them to understand like how their menstrual cycles work with them and why they feel certain ways each week and like how to use that to optimize their training so that they can like not feel like trash, or that maybe they should eat some extra carbs in these certain days so that they can enhance their performance, and just getting them to women just don't know that much about their bodies, even though they're obsessed with their bodies, if that makes sense. It's really sad. But no one tells them all these things. They just say, go do a bunch of cardio and like build your butt up. And that's all you do. Ta-da, then you die. Like, and it's just getting them to understand the importance of these things. And I really feel like my experience is if you can just get them to buy in long enough to finally start to get like that first back squat PR, or like that new skill that they did, or like for the first time in their lives, they experienced themselves doing something cool and badass that they thought was scary and they show they can do it, then like you get them in for life. And then it's a no-brainer. And then it's easy to get them to carry that. You just got to get them to buy in long enough and get them to appreciate that they're making their bodies more resilient so that when they are moms and grandmas, they're able to carry their babies for longer, because even though they're heavier and they're more resilient and they can chase their kids and keep up with them. And then when their kids have kids, they're not falling and breaking hips or bones or immobile. So, but women are so blindsided and so focused their entire life of how do I use this to shape my body, that it's just getting them to view it as anything else. And then from there, we can talk about, okay, well, this is why it's so important for your health.
Yeah, I think tying back in that fitness industry message that kind of used to be more of females shouldn't do any sort of resistance training. They should like go on the treadmills, maybe do some super light weights. And if you do any weights, kind of do try to build that butt as you were talking about. And thankfully that's now changing as there's a lot more females that have started powerlifting or just lifting in general. And it's kind of become even the cool thing to do, which is fantastic. But a lot of people also don't realize that resistance training doesn't necessarily even need to be to shape their body or to power lift, but there's so many benefits. Like, for example, you mentioned in childbirth, for in the future when their hormones do go down after menopause, there's just so many different benefits that for some reason females don't necessarily realize outside of like shaping their bodies. That it's kind of sad, and that's something that you were doing a great job educating people with, and I think we need a lot more of that message out there.
Well, thank you.
And I think with the latest data showing somewhere between like, I think it was like 85 and 95% of people with eating disorders, or at least seen or treated for eating disorders, are female. I think it's very important to have female leadership in the fitness community, you know, kind of helping women get to that point where they're no longer exercising to shrink themselves. They're exercising to accomplish things, or developing a healthier relationship with self, developing a healthier relationship with food, with exercise, in terms of framing it in a way that this is not to please anybody else. This is not to be a smaller individual. This is to be the most version of yourself, be the best, be the biggest, best version of yourself you can.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, you know, like you said, I think right now we're still in that weird kind of in-between zone of like, there's a lot of women who understand like, hey, heavy resistance training is good, but there's still the vast majority, I think, who would be so scared to lift for sets of 6 to 8 or something like that, because they're like, well, I'm just going to turn into a dude then automatically, right? Like, and I think getting that right information out there to the masses of like, not only just women directly, but to coaches, to trainers, to doctors. Because what happens when, you know, someone goes to their doctor and she asks, hey, I want to lift heavy, and the doctor's like, oh, I wouldn't do, you know, then you just hit this huge barrier, this huge wall, right? So I think kind of all coming together to kind of accomplish that task is something that we're starting to accomplish, but definitely need more leaders in the field, such as yourself, to kind of push that.
Preventive medicine is an incredibly important topic. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. For the full episode, find us on your favorite podcast streaming platform. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it to keep that message spreading. Thank you once again for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.